Hi guys, my name is Fawaz Joseph, and today we are going to be doing our second Flutter UI challenge, and it's gonna be about this actually. Oh nope, it's gonna be about this. Don't worry, we'll get to the inner circle in a bit. But yeah, I saw this animation and I really like the perspective animation, and I've actually seen some articles with Flutter that kind of had to do with perspective animation. So I wanted to check this out, right? I wanted to see how this, if I could do it, and yeah, you can, yeah, we'll see. That's the mystery of the video, right? Like, can he do it? And yeah, and I'm also gonna try something different. I actually already wrote the code, and I'm gonna see if I can explain the code instead of actually doing it in front of you to see, if that would be easy on me to edit. If that's easy on, it'll be shorter too, and yeah. So just let me know if you like this format better. Like, I've written the code and I'm just explaining it instead of like typing it in front of you, which is, I don't know. Yeah, just let me know. So yeah, as you see, this is the share button. You click it, it kind of reveals the Facebook button underneath, or the social icons underneath, not the Facebook button. And to do that, we needed some icons. So right, so we have the Facebook icon, the selected icon, and the Facebook icon, the Instagram icon, and the Twitter icon. But you see, I have them in two folders: the gray, which is unselected, and the selected, which is like active, right? But if you look at the pub spec, this is how I added them, and you can actually see I don't have the intermediary folders, right? The parent folders, and that's because Flutter has this thing called like asset variant. I'll link the documentation in the show notes. Not the show notes. I listen to podcasts way too much. In the comments, but yeah, it's pretty much saying, oh, okay, you have this too, and you have this icon in two places, so you can pull them in all at once. You don't have to list them up one by one. So that kind of cut out a little bit. Kind of a work smarter, not harder. Like a little bit, not that much, but then again, it's the little victories, right? So yeah, we brought them in. These are icons. We brought them in. And also, yeah, yeah, I think that's it for the icons. And let's talk about, actually. Let me have it in the. Oh, and that's another thing, right? Like, if you look closely at this challenge, you can see the mouse, and this is a mobile device, so I have to make some concessions. We'll get to that later on, like what the concessions are. But yeah, I had to make some modifications. I say concessions, modifications. But right, so let's start with this feature, right? This is how it looks in code. So if you look at the code, we have a container. It's black, and this is the item width, and a text. There's nothing special about them. What I did had to do that I usually don't do, or I've not done, is what is of note, right? Is that the letter spacing? I've actually never used that before. This is how it's kind of spaced apart, and the font size and the font weight is like how big it is. You know what font size is, and the font weight is how bold it is, and the color is you know what the color is. And this is text, and yeah, these three icons. One, each button has a notion of active. Like, if I click this, yeah, don't worry about that. I mean, I was just taking icons off the web, and the Facebook and the Instagram icons were, yeah, they were easier to find, like, versions of them. But use your imagination for this, right? But the buttons have their own notion of activeness, and but there's a parent widget or a stateful widget that kind of says which one is active. And this is it. This is the actual button itself. Like, toggle button dot, yeah, it's a stateless widget, and it just returns an index stack, right? And I saw this in the widget of the week that the Flutter channel does, like, every week. And I've always wanted to use it ever since I saw it. So I thought, hey, this is a perfect chance. And what an index stack is it's just like a stack, but it only shows one child at a time. And that's based around this index parameter. And if it's selected, It's a zero-based array, by the way. If it's selected, pick the first one, and you can see it's the selected icon, right? And if it's the second one, yeah, I said that. But if it's not selected, pick the first one, and the icon name slash icon, yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So he picks this one, yeah, and then picks this one. So yeah, that's that for that. But I said the parent widget kind of controls which one is active. So it's this share state, and this share state there's a selected. It can be -1. If so, then nothing is selected. And but there's I wrapped a gesture detector around each of the buttons, and I guess I could have done it. I could have done it inside this too, but I needed to set the state. But it's whatever. Like honestly, the perspective animation is what was important. Like I feel like this the next section of code I'm about to talk about is probably not the most optimized, but like I just wanted to do the perspective animation to be honest, right? So I wrapped the gesture detector around the toggle button, and when you tap them, you do the selected. It says what index you are, right? And then, but the thing is, again, I talked about the modification because that mockup is made for the web, but this is the mobile. So for the Facebook one, and it kind of actually matches up, right? Like if you look at this, it's when they click on the Facebook or when they hover over the Facebook that it goes back. So what I did was I just made I made a double tap for the Facebook button, and I made it go like I made it like reverse the animation, but that's all I did. And for the Twitter, same thing, selected one. For the Instagram, same thing, right? So I think that's about it for the actual icons and stuff. So now we're gonna go back to the animations, right? So the animations, the animations is driven by one, the animated builder, and there's an animation controller. You know about it, yeah. If you don't, yeah, it's just it's the animation controller. That's nothing special. It runs for 500 milliseconds, and the builder, it returns a gesture controller for, yeah, that if you tap it, it actually goes forward. And now that I think about it, the gesture controller can actually just be around this, but again, whatever, right? Like this was just for the perspective animation, honestly. So if you tap it, it goes forward. Now, how did we actually make it rotate like that? We use a transform widget, and we use the matrix 4, and this is how you set the perspective. I can show you the article, but you set the row 3, column 2 of the matrix 4 to this. You can play around with this number, and this is how you get perspective. Like it makes it look 3D-ish, right? And you can play around with this number, and depending on how small or large your number is, you have like a different perspective, right? But yeah, this is what I landed on. You can clone the repository, try something different if you want it. And so this is kind of what we're here for, right? Like if you go here, yeah, so if you go here, right, you can see that one actually, right, so you can see that the transform is around the top center, which is super important. And two, it's rotating around the x-axis. And what does that mean? It means that this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, right? So when I'm saying rotate around the x-axis, y-axis. So I'm saying rotate, and if this is my widget, rotate around the x-axis, rotate around the y-axis. Like I'm rotating around the axis, if that makes sense, right? And yeah, so now that we've gotten out of the way, how much should we rotate? So the container starts in 2 pi and ends in 3 pi, and we're back to the unit circle. All right, we're back to the unit circle, and it makes sense. So if you look at this, right, if you go back to my excellent drawing, so if you have this right here, and if okay, how do I say it? So if I say rotate pi over 4 around you see pi over 4 here. If I say rotate pi over 4 around the x-axis, I'm saying go like this, right? So that's the positive direction, right? But so, and if you look at this, the shear is actually kind of going back, right? It's going back. And so if 0 to pi over 4 goes forward, it goes like this. For me to go back, it has to be, I can use negative as well, but I didn't want to. Like, I have like I had like a graph of the unit circles. This kind of, it made sense to me, you know? So I'm saying go from 2 pi, which is also a 0, by the way, because the full circle is 0, by the way, right? Go from 2 pi, which is like this, and just go back, right? So go from 2 pi to 3 pi over 2. So if 0 and pi over 4 goes forward, 2 pi to 3 pi over 2 goes backwards, right? Yes. So actually, so if this goes forward, this will go backwards, if that makes sense. So that's why it goes from, hold on, give me a second. That's why it goes from 2 pi to 3 pi over 2. I'm essentially going backwards, and that's the trick with that. And there's also an interval, and there's a curve, and what I've done is the interval. And what the interval is it's usually used in staggered animation. I'll put that in the not the show notes. Listen to me. I'm gonna put that in the comments, or not the comments, the description. Oh my god. What that is usually used in staggered animations, and you can see I'm saying 0 to 0.5. So I'm saying this is from 0 to this is half of the duration, right? This interval is saying half of this duration of this animation controller. And the reason I did that is because if they're perfectly in tow, you wouldn't be able to see the come up of the bottom animation. Like you can see how this comes up, because the second one, even though it takes the full length, it decelerates, and the reverse curve is also like, it starts out fast and it goes in slow. And so like I had to kind of like stagger the animations a little so you can see the bottom ones, and this is what the curve is. In this one, we're just selecting the duration, be a little faster, be twice as fast as the bottom one. And in this one, we're just saying, okay, so you're still fast, but change your curve a little bit. You can mess with that on your own if you clone it. But yeah, that's what we did for that. And so yeah, this is the share. Oh, we actually didn't talk about the values of the social perspective. So the social perspective is just this, right? This is the social icons. The name could be better, but again, whatever, right? So pi over 2 over 0, right? And if we go back to our unit circle, right? So remember I said this is our x-axis. This is our widget. My finger is my widget. And we go from 0 to pi over 4. So if that's pi over 4, this is going to be pi over 2, right? So that's what it is, right? I'm saying from the get-go, be flat. You can't see this if it's like 1 pixel, right? So I'm saying from the get-go, be flat. And when I call you, go back to 0. But that's how we came up with these values right here. And we animate it, and we surround this with a gesture detector. And again, yeah, I don't know. I could have only surrounded this gesture detector, but whatever. So it goes forward, it does its thing, and then once we go back to the toggle button of Facebook, it deselects it, and then it just selects everything. So there's no icon that's the selected icon, and it reverses it. And this is when this reverse curve takes place. So, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it, honestly. And if you like it, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. I have a Twitter, I have a newsletter that, yeah, you guys can follow as well. It's just stuff that I find on the web about Flutter. Yeah, like since I was doing a lot of matrix and perspective animation for this research for this the last issue had a lot of perspective animation stuff, right? So yeah, let me know and look in the comments and subscribe to all that stuff. And yeah, thank you guys. If there is any comment, any feedback, for the last time, let me know. My name is Fawaz Joseph, and this has been the second UI challenge. Thank you.